any old neighborhood. No, he bought himself a house in an area of a town that he's been slowly purchasing for years. That's right, on an unassuming cul-de-sac just southeast of Greenville, North Carolina, well, MrBeast has been scooping up one home after another for himself and his family and his employees. According to the New York Post, well, Jimmy's house buying endeavor, it began with the purchase of his own unit for a paltry $320,000 back in 2018. Over the next handful of years, well, Jimmy would continue to discreetly add to his real estate portfolio, bringing his current grand total of properties located on the street to 5. Now, according to records, well, he bought the second home in 2020 for $263,000, followed by an additional 3 other properties, all of which were bought off market for a combined total of $1.45 million. Now, of those individuals who sold their home to MrBeast is a man named Aaron Bowden. Now, Aaron, he came to an agreement with Jimmy in 2022, and he told the New York Post, "We negotiated back and forth, and it had to be worth my while, and he wasn't gonna buy if it wasn't worth it." North Carolina, well, MrBeast has been scooping up one home after another for himself and his family and his employees. According to the New York Post, well, Jimmy's house buying endeavor, it began with the purchase of his own unit for a paltry $320,000 back in 2018. Over the next handful of years, well, Jimmy would continue to discreetly add to his real estate portfolio, bringing his current grand total of properties located on the street to 5. Now, according to records, well, he bought the second home in 2020 for $263,000, followed by an additional 3 other properties, all of which were bought off market for a combined total of $1.45 million. Now, of those individuals who sold their home to MrBeast is a man named Aaron Bowden. Now, Aaron, he came to an agreement with Jimmy in 2022, and he told the New York Post, "We negotiated back and forth, and it had to be worth my while, and he wasn't gonna buy if it wasn't worth his while." Even after securing 5 homes, well, Jimmy still has one last property left to buy on the street. But according to Aaron, well, it's rather unlikely MrBeast will be able to add this property to his growing collection because the children who live there have yet to complete their education at the nearby school. Now, Aaron, he continued to the New York Post, "It's the best school district in the area, and they have kids in school. I wouldn't know anything for a fact because I don't walk in their shoes, but they may change their minds when their kids are out of high school and off to college." In terms of the here and now, well, it has been confirmed by Jimmy's representation that his residence in this neighborhood will become his home base for this foreseeable future. Now, whenever he's not busy traveling for work or shooting out of his studio, nearby, that is. So why don't we take a closer look at what's inside MrBeast's new home? In 2022 alone, Variety reported that MrBeast, he earned an estimated $54 million. He then used a not insubstantial amount of that money to buy a handful of suburban properties. But here's the surprising thing. They're all kind of mid, especially Jimmy's. Following a burglary in his previous home, well, Jimmy bought his 2-story, 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom property that occupies nearly 3,000 square feet back in 2018. Now, inside the house, it boasts a kitchen that features newly installed granite countertops, along with a breakfast bar, kitchen table, and a pantry. There's also a nearby family room that comes complete with a gas log fireplace, as well as huge windows that allow for plenty of natural light. Now, elsewhere on that same level is the primary suite, which includes an ensuite bathroom with a double vanity, as well as a whirlpool tub and a shower. Meanwhile, up top on the second floor, well, you'll discover the other 3 bedrooms, their corresponding en-suites, as well as a laundry room and an extra space that can be converted into an office or a den. Now, outdoors, well, the place is modest but far from spectacular. Now, amenities, they're said to include a screened-in rear porch, a patio, a basketball court, and even a separate storage building for all those props and collectibles MrBeast has no doubt accumulated over the years. Now, once Jimmy had completed the purchase of this home, well, he began quietly buying up the surrounding properties. Now, some of the people he bought from had lived in this neighborhood for their entire lives. Others had been there for just about a year, but the 3 families that capitalized by selling their home for a combined $1.45 million, well, they have now all retired to the beach or elsewhere in the surrounding area. None of them seem to be too displeased over what happened either. Now, others, however, well, they've had more of a mixed reaction when they found out about MrBeast going full Mr. Rogers and starting his very own neighborhood. Now, once the wider world at large found out about MrBeast's brand new town, many of them had thoughts. Now, some praised the content creator's generosity, not to mention his genius, carving out his own little corner of the planet to share with the people closest to him. him. Others, though, they accused him of starting a company town. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the term, well, a company town is a place where residential and retail property is all owned by the employer of the people who live there. Now, this is criticism that Elon Musk has faced with the recently, proposed towns he's building for his Tesla and SpaceX employees, which is located out in Texas. Now, these types of settlements, they've popped up over the years, generally in the coal, steel, and lumber industries. And historically speaking, well, they've been found to repress an employee, like their working conditions, their rights. So that's why there are some who are now wondering if MrBeast is going to stop short by just securing himself an entire neighborhood. I mean, what if he wanted to buy an entire state next? Now, of course, with questions like that being thrown around, well, it didn't take long for this entire discourse to become so outrageous that it frustrated MrBeast. Well, he responded by suggesting that only he could be canceled for trying to give people a place to live without any strings attached. Now, as far as he's concerned, well, Jimmy, he was just trying to help, and he doesn't understand why what he's doing is being characterized by some as culty. Now, one of the people that he wanted to help and who's now living in a home Jimmy bought is his childhood friend and recent headline magnate, Chris Tyson. Now, Chris has his buddies back just like how Jimmy had his throughout the entire hormone replacement therapy news cycle, even if it was a tongue-in-cheek sort of way. Now, Chris obviously isn't serious about moving out of his new neighborhood, and why would he? Until he starts hearing rumors about how Jimmy is suddenly hiking up everyone's rent while also forcing them to shop at retail outlets he secretly is the owner of. Well, what are we really complaining about here? I mean, is it any surprise that a man who wants to help the near blind see again might also want to provide for those people who support him the most? I, for one, I'm looking forward to see what MrBeast turns this neighborhood into over the next few years, not to mention how it eventually comes to impact the content he creates. Now, years from now, we might look back at this moment as a turning point in his career, for good or for bad. Now, until we know for sure, I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. I guess that'll bring us to the end of our latest edition of House Tours here on Famous Entertainment. Before I leave you guys, I do have a question for you. Who's the first person in your inner circle you'd gift a home to if you owned an entire neighborhood? I'm sure Kara would have given a house to that dog. So that's what came to my mind. Actually, send some love and support to Kara. She's Kara the Vampire Slayer over on Instagram, and send her some hearts because she's just devastated with the loss of her Shiro. And if you guys know us, if you've been following us for years, you know that dog meant everything to both of us. Anyways, guys, my name is Michael McCrudden. Thanks for bearing with me on this channel. I don't often host, house tours, but I'm happy to be here. And sometimes they tag other videos at the end. So let's do Ariana Maddox